Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine's party will challenge President Yoweri Museveni's election victory. Speaking in a news conference yesterday, the National Unity Party's Maathias Mpuuga also condemned what it called the house arrest of Wine and his wife. On Saturday, the Electoral Commission declared Museveni the winner of Thursday's vote, with the final counts showing the president won 59% of votes to Wine's 35%. 76-year-old Museveni has been in power since 1986 and is one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. For the latest now, we are joined from Kampala by our correspondent, Leon Ssenyange. Thank you very much for coming through, Leon. What's the situation like where you are?
Well, Colin, it's a very calm Monday, 4 days after many of the Ugandans went to the polls to cast their vote and decide who their president would be. A heavy downpour in the afternoon, certainly bringing some, calmness to what seemingly looked like an intense process that many Ugandans went through. A little bit of traffic jam outside there, that of course means that people have come out from their homes to get back to business. The authorities are still patrolling the streets in several areas around the city, and what we've learned is across the country. And suddenly, yes, Ugandans are happy to be back to work and back to their jobs, and several activities they were doing that came to a halt leading into the elections on Thursday.
What's the feeling like as far as the sentiment expressed by voters concerning the victory of the president and the loss of Bobi Wine?
Well, several of the voters have been able to take it in. One major factor that has tried to, or actually dampened some of the mood for many of the voters, is the absence of internet. So the lack of communication took the guts out of what would have been a lot of communication, a lot of exchange of information here and there from the voters, not just from Bobi Wine's voters or supporters, but even from many of the Ugandans. Internet was returned just today morning, Monday morning at about 11 a.m. So many are trying to catch up on what they seemingly have missed out. But I think some of the supporters of Bobi Wine, they have been able to take in the result. Some, of course, are disputing the results that were announced by the Electoral Commission. His own party, the National Unity Platform, has come out to say that they will contest the results that were announced. So suddenly we are on for a much tougher days coming through, or even much a roller coaster in court processes in trying to determine the fairness of this electoral process.
Do we know if there's any report concerning election observers and how the election went? And of course, within the context of the readiness of the people who were voting and their desire for change or transition in the current dispensation, what is their feeling like?
Well, there's been a positive vibe about and positive remarks coming through from the observers on how Ugandans have responded to this particular electoral process. Many were definitely looking forward to being part of this. And the major catch here was that one contestant, that is Bobi Wine, had captured the liking of many of the young people who make the greater population of Uganda. So there was this need for many to go and make the decision on who could be their president, and many, of course, were rallying behind Bobi Wine. And suddenly, there's a lot not to take out of this particular process, despite the fact that the Electoral Commission hinted that there was a 50% turn-up of what would have been an 18 million registered vote circumstance. Now, only slightly above 10 million turned up to the polls. That, for many, was a bit of a disappointment, but still, the greater number of young people were seen at the polling stations making that decision, and hoping that whoever they voted for certainly was the one that should have been announced on Saturday by the Electoral Commission.
How is Bobi Wine doing after the tough time that he has to face before, during and after the elections?
Well, it's still a tough time for Robert Kyagulanyi. Bobi Wine, after he cast his vote, he went to his home in the eastern part of the capital, Kampala. He is still held there, surrounded by the military and police. He has not been allowed to get out of his home. He only had an exception of a press conference on Friday afternoon as the results were being announced, and that is the last that has been heard of him, except for a tweet earlier today where he said that his wife and his family had run out of supplies at home, and he still couldn't access anything of that kind to keep him going with this what you'd call a house arrest. But his own party say they are only trying to get in touch with him. His lawyers as well, they're trying to do that. But we can only wait and see what will come and what will be of his situation as the days go by.
All right, so what about internet connectivity? Have people now been able to get back online to use Facebook and Twitter and other social media?
Well, I must tell you there was a great excitement. Even us from ourselves, from work here, we were unable to do any piece of work over the last 4 days because of internet disruptions. Thankfully, the country was put back online, save for the social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube also cannot open. Several of the internet users have opted for the VPN, for the virtual private networks, to be able to access and communicate. So that, of course, is where most of the Ugandans are trying to gain the communication. But as it stands, all that can be accessed so far is the basic platforms, which is email, and the social media platforms are still hard to come by.
So when we look at the challenge on President Yoweri Museveni's victory by Bobi Wine, did they have their points of arguments on what grounds they'll be challenging the election? And of course, you were talking about consultation with the lawyers. Have they issued a statement? Or I saw on some of his networks that he held a press conference, and when he was addressing the media, did he mention the breakdown of the query when they will be arguing this matter in court?
Well, the National Unity Platform had a press conference on Sunday. They only intimated that they will definitely be going to court. It's a process that they will be preparing for. Uganda's laws require that any petitioners will have 20 days after the announcement of the declaration of results. So they at least have another few days in which to prepare themselves. The downside to that is that the officers of NUP, which is Bobi Wine's political party, has been surrounded by authorities. They say it's only for a security matter. Until when they can access the offices is when we should definitely be able to know how much further they can prepare themselves. But it's an election that many Ugandans have been able to or should have predicted quite well. It's one that has brought out results that are the lowest ever score that President Yoweri Museveni has had in the elections he has contested for as an incumbent. So that still in itself brings a lot to the political table on what should be discussed in terms of moving forward as a country.
All right, we appreciate the update from you coming to us live from Kampala, and of course from Uganda. That's Leon Ssenyange, who is our correspondent right here on SA Today.